The thing about the commons, though, that if I can say it, is that it's not something ideological. It's not something that we've created or that we need to come together to create, so to speak. You know, it's not like let's build the commons. Let's look at how we can. It's much deeper than that, and I think that if the framing is, to me, very critically important. We have to understand that these are ancient and cross-cutting, foundational ways that people have coexisted with nature and with each other, and they exist right now and are living and breathing in many parts of the world.
We will not try to define what the commons are for us, because more than a concept or a definition, it's something that we do. It's a doing thing. It's a verb. We don't think that the commons are a thing, but it's something that we do in a process. This comes from so many years ago. Comes from communities. Comes from the indigenous people. But what it's happening in Bolivia. It's that people have adopted the notion of the commons to something that fits in the urban center.
The sayings that I think of, one of the Proverbs sayings that I think of often when I think about the work that I do, which I'd like to share with you or remind you of, you've probably heard it before, is a saying by Mahatma Gandhi, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, who said, there are enough resources in the world to serve human need, but there aren't enough resources in the world to serve human greed. And not to frame this in a paradigm of scarcity, right? Because as we've heard, you know, there are many positive reasons to embrace the commons, and it's not just about us running out of water resources, but increasingly, even in a country like Canada, which is known for abundant supplies of water, we're recognizing that even our very conservative federal government is recognizing that we are running out of fresh, clean drinking water.
What we're dealing with is a system that is systematically enclosing those commons. I'm going to just read a paragraph from my colleague Maud Barlow, who's written this paper, Our Water Commons. So Maud writes, the world's water crisis due to pollution, climate change, and a surging population growth is of such magnitude that close to 2 billion people now live in water-stressed regions of the planet.
Almost every year, 40,000 people households have their water shut off in the city of Detroit. The number is very vague because it's hard to get that information out of the Detroit Water and Sewage Department. And we're starting to hear stories about water shutoffs. Stories like families who couldn't afford their water. The water was shut off, making the house condemned. The state would come in and remove children from that home, pay to put them in foster care for $400 a month, but wouldn't offer any money up to pay that water bill and keep the family together.
From what we learned in the Nestle case, and then a parallel effort to stop water from being diverted and exported out of the Great Lakes Basin, the importance of the Nestle case and the compact boils down to a couple of questions. One, who owns the water? I.e., is it a commons or is it a free game for private control and ownership? And then the other question is water a commodity, a product, or is it a commons and public trust? And if so, are there limitations on exports and privatization and commodification of water? And we're talking about 20% of the world's, I should have said this at the outset, of the world's fresh surface water here. If we don't get it right here, how are we going to get it right anywhere else?
We have to, in a way, peel back some of the layers. And that happens often in crisis, is that people do have a natural way of coming together and engaging with nature and with each other that is commons-based.
In the absence of the state to take care of the basic needs of the people, like water, for example, what the communities are doing in the suburbs of the cities is to build their own water system. See this as a recovery, as a reclaiming of the people to something that belongs to them. Start to create some kind of mechanisms inside of the water company that will allow more participation, direct control, direct democracy over the water company.
As a result of the poor implementation of the Water Affordability Plan and other issues around access, cleanliness, and such, various organizations came together to form the People's Water Board. This coalition was formed sort of as a shadow water board to monitor the Detroit Water Board and to advocate for openness and transparency in all of their actions.
Another principle, right? That communities have to be engaged, that there's a responsibility on all of us to be participating in this.
The notion of the commons is different from one place to another. It changes with the time. It adapts to the environment and to their own circumstances around.
Commons is not a warm, fuzzy idea. Even as much as we want to wrap ourselves in the commons, and it does give us this feeling that we belong and are part of something else. The real power of it lies in this idea of governance and management. It lies in the structures that we can create that give us access to power. So it's not something we just want to talk about in terms of, okay, we're commoners, the commons exist, it's our air, it's our libraries, that's great, but how do we come together to make sure that those serve the people that are in the commons, and as well the commons in its larger manifestation?
Commons have to be managed. And so that's, as Anil said, that's the challenge of the commons, is trying to figure out, so how does that management look? And that raises all sorts of fascinating questions about how we govern ourselves. You have to do long-term thinking, you have to do ecological thinking. If you're not doing those things in managing water, you're really not managing it as a commons. You're managing it in some selfish way, whether it's a species-centric, selfish way, or it's a now selfish way and not thinking to future generations.
Water by its nature is a commons because things that are dynamic and are moving are common to all of us because they're incapable of ownership.
Water is a natural entry point into discussing of the commons because people have an affinity to water, an understanding of water, and people have been for generations and millennia managing their water collectively.